Lying just above the U.S. border, Pelee Island is the largest island in Lake Erie and one of the southernmost points in Canada. At over 16 square miles, Pelee's natural environment includes farmlands, marshes, and sandy beaches. Despite the size of the island, it is currently home to only about 300 permanent residents. However, its mild climate and lengthy summer season make it an ideal retreat, as seen by a seasonal population which can swell to 3,000 visitors. After thousands of years of inhabitance by Native Americans, Pelee Island was first visited by Western settlers at the start of the 19th century. These white settlers, mostly French and British, first came to Pelee in search of valuable animal furs and other natural resources. In 1823, for the sum of $500, William McCormick bought the lease and control of Pelee Island from the son of Thomas McKee, who was the first white inhabitant. As McCormick's large family and other settlers arrived to the island, there was an increased demand for economic resources. In addition to the fur trade, large plots of heavily wooded land were logged for their timber, and local limestone deposits were quarried. From the timber and limestone rose many of the early buildings and structures on the island. With the population increasing and natural resources decreasing, Pelee was in desperate need of a new industry. By digging an extensive canal system throughout the interior of the island, thousands of acres of unusable swamp and marsh were transformed into fertile crop-growing land. This newly created farmland led to the birth and rapid growth of a booming farming industry. One of the first crops cultivated on the island were the grape vineyards for multiple wineries. The decline of Pelee's wine industry brought about a new cash crop, tobacco. Industrialization on the mainland soon thwarted their small tobacco yield, and the land was quickly converted into soy fields, which are still harvested today. Although the conversion of Pelee for agricultural use increased the permanent resident population, the elimination of wetlands destroyed much of the natural habitat. The arrival of large-capacity steam vessels in the early 20th century allowed for the transfer of more supplies and seasonal visitors coming to Pelee for leisure and relaxation. In 1979, the Pelee Islander was put into service, which allowed more passengers and their cars to be transported on and off the island. The influx of tourists, due in part to the reintroduction of viticulture, resulted in increased construction of lakefront cottages, which placed strain on the ferry's ability to service both the U.S. and Canada. The introduction of a second ship in 1992, the MV Jaman, solved the issue and increased the number of tourists to Pelee. Although the ferries provided ample transportation, the winter months made the waterways impassable and created a demand for air travel. By incorporating year-round service to Pelee Island, tourist activities such as the pheasant hunt were able to thrive. The Pelee Island Airport has allowed for year-round economic profits from tourism, which is most impacted in the late fall pheasant hunts. Hundreds of hunters who come to Pelee at an otherwise quiet season are capable of bringing in upwards of $1 million in a 6-day period. The summer season attracts the greatest number of visitors, including summer residents, wildlife enthusiasts, and weekend tourists. The seasonal increase in the island's population benefits the economy with various bed and breakfast and cottage rentals booked throughout the summer and into fall. Pelee's tourist industry is primarily focused around several public areas. The center of activity revolves around the main business hub on the west side. Aside from the main ferry dock, it is home to the trading post, several restaurants, and other specialty stores and services. Another major attraction located just south of the ferry dock is the Pelee Island Winery. This large pavilion is the home of the Pelee Island Vineyards, where tourists come to learn about the island's past viticulture and taste the variety of wines in the adjacent patio and sunyard. Weekend tourists often bike around the island, making stops at some of the finest wildlife preserves, including the southernmost tip, Fish Point. On the opposite end of the island lies the recently restored lighthouse and Lake Henry Marsh, where a wide variety of flora and fauna can be found. Aside from the wildlife attractions, many tourists retire to the sandy east beaches to relax and unwind. Although many tourists and residents enjoy Pelee's current state, the island faces the harsh reality of a struggling economy. With a limited number of viable industries, tourism has become the focus of a proposed plan to lift the economy and population.